Hi guys, I seem to have lost the intro clip that I made. However, this video is going to be discussing different tips that have helped me grow my hair longer, healthier, and also stronger. So if you're interested in finding out what these tips are, then stay tuned, and thank you so much for coming to join, my little channel. Bye guys.
Number one, my first tip is to try and use a scalp massager. So something like this. I usually use it whenever I'm washing my hair and shampooing my hair. So I normally go in first, I shampoo my hair, and then once it lathers, then I'll go in with this onto my scalp and just circulate it. And I normally wash my hair in 4 sections. So I basically do that for each section. And what this does is it helps to stimulate your hair follicles, to basically help them get that juice, that energy to start working, because a lot of our hair follicles are basically asleep. Also for after wash day, you can then go in and just massage your scalp maybe 2 to 3 times a week, or maybe even twice a week, or even once, just whichever. But it's just a really good habit. You can use basically essential oils that basically stimulate hair growth. And like an example of this oil is something like peppermint oil, which you can mix into olive oil or like maybe jojoba oil, and then just massage your scalp. I'll link something similar with this exact one that I got from Amazon and below in the description box. But yeah, just massage your scalp. Tip number 2, avoid overwashing your hair. This is something that my mom actually told me, because before I used to wash my hair sort of every week or every 2 weeks. Sorry guys for I don't know if you guys can hear the background noise, but every week or every 2 weeks. And what you'd find is, especially for people who detangle their hair a lot with a lot of detangling tools, so whether it's combs or like brushes or like all that kind of stuff, what you'll find is that you're just constantly ripping through your hair and pulling your hair out, and all the growth that you're getting, you're breaking it off, especially if you're not very careful with how you detangle your hair. To be honest, on wash days I tend to avoid, I don't really use combs, I normally just finger detangle my hair. Tip number 3, so tip number 3 is making sure to oil the ends of your hair. So I am very guilty of this. I always forget to oil the ends of my hair. Like, you just kind of just like put the oil everywhere and then you just forget the ends. But what you need to remember is that your ends are basically the oldest part of your hair, so you need to take care of them properly. And also, when you obviously have new growth and your hair is growing longer and longer, if you aren't taking care of the ends of your hair, that bit is just going to break off, and then you're not even going to notice the new hair that you've grown. So yeah, I'll definitely say all the ends of your hair. So you can use things like olive oil, avocado oil, jojoba oil, all very good. I'll maybe link some that I have again in description box below. But yeah, so all the ends of your hair, it is the oldest, possibly the most fragile part of your hair, because if you don't take care of it, if it is dry, if it is cold weather, like the weather that we have in the UK right now, it will quite literally break off. So make sure that you're constantly moisturizing and looking after. Now, hair growth, hair thickness, arguably is genetics, but what I think is that we all have obviously our different potentials, and depending on how hard you're willing to work. Because for example, now I would say I grow my hair quite quickly, and I'm very religious about looking after my hair, not touching it too much, and just applying all the tips that I will be saying right now. I noticed that it actually grew really quickly, and yeah, so I would say that although it is genetics, if you genetically have very dense, thick, long hair, and if you don't look after it, your hair is not going to be dense, thick and long. Or it could be that, but it just may not be as healthy, or it just may not reach its full potential. What am I trying to say? Some people are more likely to grow long hair quickly and maybe easier, but that doesn't mean that somebody else who potentially may not have those same set of genetics isn't able to work hard and take all these tips into consideration, look after their hair properly, isn't able to have the same, long hair and all of that stuff. Because I even noticed as well, I had quite long hair when I was younger, and I didn't take care of my hair. I was constantly straightening it in school, like stay like this length. It just was not great at all. And then when I, religiously started looking after my hair, I was able to see growth, I was able to see thickness, I was able to see definition. But yeah, so look after what you eat properly, and just be healthy. Also, it's important to know if something is actually going on with your body and in yourself. Tip number 5, to be honest, tip number 5 is probably single-handedly my most used tip, my most I would say the tip that actually helped me the most in retaining length. And the reason I'm saying this is because when I started to do this, I saw a huge amount of growth in my hair. Now, okay, so tip number 5 is basically keeping your natural hair stretched. I feel like a lot of, so I have type 4 hair, whether it's type 4A, type 4B, I'm not sure, but I think it's type 4A for, doing hair types. But what I will say is that keeping my hair stretched, so whether it's the tension method that you guys saw in my last video, which you can watch, you'll watch that if you haven't watched it, where you basically just pull your hair and you just blow the hair dryer. I stretch my hair that way. I can also use a blow dryer with a comb attachment as well. I stretch it that way. You can also use the banding method, which is basically where you can basically just put hair bands all the way down the length of your hair, and that will keep it stretched. The reason why I say that this tip helped me the most is because it reduced the chances of single strand knots. Right. So for me, when I started stretching my hair, I noticed that firstly, it was easier for me to actually oil my hair fully from scalp, from root to tip. That's number 1. Number 2, it was easier as well for me to keep it detangled thoroughly, and then I was also more motivated to every other night to oil my hair. If I was dealing with my hair after maybe a wash and go, which number 1, I don't do wash and goes. If I was dealing with my hair after a wash and go, I would be there breaking through the hair, trying to separate it, trying to do all that. Meanwhile, if my hair is stretched, it's just easy. I'm not breaking through hair. And I will say, obviously, be careful, don't get heat damage and use a heat protector. Or you can even do heatless, stretching. But I don't have time, so I just normally use heat to help me. But yeah, so I would 100% suggest stretching your hair. A lot of the, I'm not sure about maybe type 3, naturals, but a lot of the type 4 naturals that I noticed that have quite long, hair, they usually keep their hair stretched. And whether it is stretched and then put into cane rows, except you don't leave your hair out a lot, which is another thing. If you don't leave your hair out a lot, maybe you just wash your hair and then you just cane row it straight away, put a wig on, and that's it, and that's okay. But if you're constantly leaving your hair out, you're doing wash and goes all the time, and you're constantly trying to detangle, and you're getting all these knots, then personally I feel like you shouldn't really do that too much. You can do wash and go once in a while, but I personally prefer to stretch my hair. And I'm sure obviously hair growth works differently for other people, but for me personally, what I noticed that made a huge difference in my hair growth and retaining length was stretching my hair. Is get hair trims, right? Trim your hair, but don't do it too often. I've always been an advocate of trim your hair if you notice that you obviously have, split ends. It looks very, very unhealthy. Your hair looks very, very thin at the ends, and it's just, not healthy looking. You don't need to trim your hair every 2 to 3 months because, Sarah does that, or because, I don't know, Yetunde trims her hair every 2 to 3 months and her hair is really, really long or whatever. Because I believe that if you trim your hair too much when you don't need to do that, you're basically, you're not going to see any growth because you're constantly cutting it off. And if your hair is really, really healthy and it's growing, and then you're cutting it again and trimming it and trimming it and trimming it and trimming it, you're not going to see growth. So personally, I feel like trim your hair if you do notice that you need a trim. If your hair is looking unhealthy at the ends, if you've got split ends, if it's basically just noticeably, if your hair noticeably needs a trim, get a trim. So next tip is deep condition your hair each wash day, except you're maybe washing more regularly and you're basically co-washing. Maybe if you wash your hair every week or every 2 weeks, which I've advised not to. But if you do that, then I guess you don't necessarily need to deep condition every single time. But for me, every single time I wash my hair, I deep condition it, and I also deep condition it with my heat cap, which again is in my last video. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I always deep condition my hair with heat. It makes my hair soft. It makes my hair easy to, manage. It also makes it easier. And it's made it healthier. Ever since I incorporated heat into my regime, whenever I deep condition my hair, I have noticed the health of my hair, and my curls pop more, and it just looks great. And it also helps to keep your hair very, very moisturized, and it particularly helps with very, very dry, dehydrated hair. And in London and in the UK at the moment, the weather is not great, so your hair is most likely going to be dry if your hair is out. So yeah, make sure to deep condition and deep condition. Try and finger detangle as much as possible. It may take longer, but you will notice that you're not ripping, like, because you'll be more gentle on like a comb where you're just going dun dun dun. If you are going to use a comb, then start from the ends of your hair and then work your way up. And you can also spritz your hair with a little bit of water as well, so then it's a bit, easier, and the comb glides through a bit easier as well. But I tend to avoid using combs and all of that. If you go to a hairstylist and they're trying to use a rat tail comb to comb your hair, which somebody has tried to do that to me before, you better run. I was very, very stupid and I sat there and I stayed. I was very, very silly and I stayed there. Like, hairstylists are so, like, you need to be very, very careful with who you take your hair to, because there is no reason why anybody will tell me that they need to use a rat tail comb to comb my hair. They can use it to make partings, they can use it to all that, but for them to take that rat tail comb and start combing your hair, run. I normally use combs like at the end of my wash day, so like I said, just to go through it once and then just to make sure that everything's actually detangled after a finger detangled, and then you should just see that it easily goes through. But like sort of midweek, I don't really do that because I work in a hospital. My hair's normally packed anyway, or like in a bun, so I tend to just leave it like that and then, like, sleep and then wake up the next morning. So I'm not really detangling every single day. And I guess working in a hospital helps in a sense that because I go on wards sometimes, most of the times, I actually don't leave my hair down, so my hair is always like packed up or that kind of stuff. So detangling every single day is just not something I do, and I'm not here for it, and it's just not great for your hair as well because you're just ripping through. Tip number 9, I'm going to try and be quick because my battery is about to die. Okay, tip number 9 is all about protective styling. The only thing I have to say about this is my favorite protective styles. Wigs are okay, braids are great, twists, all of that, they're all great, and they mean that you don't manipulate your hair as much. And I love to, swap. So maybe I'll go from a wig to leaving my hair out for some time, to then braids, to then leaving my hair out for some time. All I will say about protective styling is they're great because, your hair basically just has a break, especially in winter as well. It's good because you're hiding your hair, and your hair is basically able to grow, and you will see that you've actually grown a lot of hair. So I believe we are on the tip number 10 and that is basically using a satin bonnet, satin pillow, and satin hairbands. Cotton dries your hair out, and if you're constantly just sleeping with your hair just directly onto a cotton pillow is not great. It dries your hair out, so try to avoid it and get a satin pillowcase. You can get one from literally Amazon, eBay, anywhere. But just be careful, obviously, that it's real satin. I also use a satin bonnet as well. So what I usually do is I have a satin bonnet, I sleep with a satin bonnet, I then sleep on a satin pillow, and then I also use satin hairbands. And also with the satin hairbands, you find that it doesn't leave dents in your hair as much as normal hairbands do. So yeah, just try and use satin because it keeps the moisture in your hair, and that also stops your hair from, breakage, and it increases moisture retention as well. Because if you moisturize your hair and you go sleep on a cotton pillow, the cotton is just sucking all the moisture out of your hair. And you'll find that. And also if you're having a satin bonnet, let's say if you like doing wash and goes, for example, if you have a satin bonnet, quite a big one as well, your style will actually remain how it is. Obviously it'll be a little bit thing, and all you just need to do is just fluff it out a little bit, but you'll find that your style is basically your style is able to stay sort of almost the same, and it's able to last longer as well. But yeah, so tip number 10, try and use satin bonnet, satin pillowcase, and satin hairbands. The 3 S's. So everything I've sort of mentioned, so things like the satin bonnet, the satin pillowcase, the hairbands, I'll try and link them all below in the description box, and then you guys can, see the sort of stuff that I use and maybe try and get it to see if that helps you as well. If you're willing to, obviously, use all these tips, and if you're willing to actually put in the work to look after your natural hair, then you should see a huge difference. I feel like a lot of people say, oh, my hair isn't growing, my hair is this, my hair is that, but do you actually genuinely look after your hair? Do you actually make the effort? Or if you're not going to be willing to, moisturize your hair all the time, like don't sleep on it, on a cotton pillowcase, like maybe stretch it if you're always getting single strand knots. If you notice that you get single strand knots all the time, then maybe that's a sign that maybe wash and goes isn't for you, and maybe try stretching your hair. But yeah, I would say just look after your hair. And also as I was actually watching a video about the use of wigs all the time, and yeah, that's also another thing with protective style. So what I find is, if you're also going to do a protective style like wigs, do not forget your hair underneath, because we get really happy, you know, you can manipulate the wig, you can straighten it, you can do all you want, and it's not damaging your real hair. But if you're forgetting about your hair underneath, you're not oiling your scalp, you're not looking after, or you're leaving the protective styling for too long, then your hair is just going to get worse and it's not going to be great. So whatever protective style you're doing is not actually a protective style. And I also forget to mention, the good thing about protective styling as well is that it's very versatile. So if one day you want curly hair, one day you want to straighten your hair, one day you want to even add heat, or if you want to straighten your hair every single day to give you that bone straight look, you're able to do that, because you don't risk damaging your real hair. Yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you guys learned a thing or two. I'm sure you guys have possibly watched other videos that show these tips, but this just shows you how good those tips are, and if you actually stick to them, then you could actually see a huge difference in your hair length and health. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you guys come back soon, and leave a comment below which are the tips that you maybe haven't been doing, and maybe you'd want to try and incorporate that into your routine. So yeah, thank you guys, bye.